Parasuram is talking about how he doesn't like philosophy or abstract form, and he deals with analysis and synthesis and studies only from the critique of practical reason. Now, in science, you know where it happens. In a laboratory with tangible materials, substances. Where is the analysis and synthesis in the wisdom of Kabbalah? Analysis and synthesis are not in a laboratory. You have analysis and synthesis in actions, like in chemical actions. When you separate things, you can call it analysis. You can synthesize chemical materials and call it synthesis. True, but analysis and synthesis are kind of separation and composing things together. But it happens also in the mind, in research and understanding, not just on substances like minerals and plants. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about every element that you receive. It doesn't matter where. If it's elements that I receive from research, data like statistics or phenomena that I can't touch or compose or separate, but when I perceive them, they're in my mind, or I take them from my emotions to my intellect. So in them too, I can perform analysis and synthesis. What? Or what? Maybe your problem is you think these are abstract things. They're not abstract. Because if I act by accurate and clear data and precise, then I'm allowed to synthesize or separate or analyze them. But I also have to practically test the results and not keep them as something abstract. Can you describe a Kabbalistic research? When a person researches, a scientist, a researcher takes substance and does all kinds of things to it and registers the phenomena in the substance and what it operates on the substance and all the forces and all that. Yeah? For example, I have a piece of metal, I put it into the fire and I heat it up until it becomes liquid. And then I measure at what temperature it became liquid. So I have a phenomenon, right? Now I cool it and I check it again. Perhaps it becomes solid again at a different temperature. I don't know. I test it. A Kabbalist, that everything happens inside of him, does the same. But the research is internal, not external. What's the difference? The difference is very simple. In our sciences, I have to take the metal and the heat and heat it up and then measure it with a thermometer when it turns from solid to liquid and back. So I work externally on something. These things then go inside into my emotions and into my mind, and then I work with them. That's why these teachings are called external teachings. In my research in the spiritual nature, I feel it inside, in my qualities, which I have now acquired, and I measure these qualities in all kinds of states, lights and vessels and sparks and screens, and how they clothe one inside the other. I check it inside. And so I don't need to bring it into me from the outside and inside of it process it and turn it into a science. But as soon as I check them in, test them inside, and synthesize them and analyze them inside, it brings me into an internal science. That's why it's called the internality of the Torah. It's the wisdom of Kabbalah. By that, everything I study is studied internally on forces and vessels and screens and all the laws. It turns out that the difference is very, very... there's a big difference here. Because I never know about external actions, what or who they really are. Because I study external phenomena that happen when they happen outside of me, I'm separated from them. It's as if I observe them from a different world. Why? We turn our picture in the eye upside down. You know that if I can see it this way in my eye, it's turned upside down in my eye, and then the brain turns it upside down again. The picture I see within, I see it as something external. You seem to me like you're outside of me, but actually you're inside of me, and I see you here, in a screen in the back of my mind, here, etc. So the external science brings us such phenomena that we cannot identify our mistakes in them.
Besides, I never examine the thing as it is of itself, but I examine it through my senses, meaning that I enter it, and I examine not it, neither me, but the mutual in between us. I do not perceive all the waves around me now. I perceive only those waves that my sense is capable of perceiving, meaning whatever is mutual between my relation, my qualities, and the qualities of whatever happens on the outside. For this reason, science, external science, is extremely limited. However, the internal science, I perceive everything as lights in the vessels. I don't have here along the way any further adapters, filters, by which due to which I lose, which causes the loss of the perception of the world. Therefore, this world, this material world compared with the spiritual world, it's not because it's low, but because it comes to us through the five senses, through the five bodily, beastly senses. It doesn't bring me grasp, perception of nature, but all in all, certain pretty external phenomena, incidents, and for that reason it's called an external wisdom.